Well, thank you, Bob, and thank you everybody for joining us. The purpose of today's webinar, as you've seen in the invite and on the screen, is to talk about why to upgrade to IFS Cloud from your previously IFS releases. We know some of you guys are using from 8, 9, and 10, and we're going to talk about what's the difference, why you want to move to the cloud, and how it could benefit you. My name is John Farrell. I'm the SVP of the IFS practice here in North America for Prov. I do have an extensive background within IFS, being a sales rep there from 2014 to 2019. Next slide, please.
Yep.
So a little bit about Prov. Prov was started in 2005. And it since then has grown into 700 plus resources across the globe. We have done over 100 plus projects in various technologies. And currently we have 85 plus resources across the globe that are certified in IFS Cloud. So some of the things we do with IFS and for our current customers, we are able to do some software development. So this is important to anybody that's done any custom work on previous IFS versions. We can actually take that custom work and we can move it into the cloud, and we can help redevelop it and work with you around the custom work. We can do full implementation consultants. So whether it is the upgrades that we're talking about today, or we do a full implementation from start to finish, we can support you on that. We have end user training and application support after the fact. So if you need some more training that is not provided, we can actually help work with you around the end user training. And then we also do application hosted and 24/7 monitoring of the cloud. So we are a big enough organization that matters to you guys, but we're small enough to care. So what that means is we have, as you can see, a global presence across the globe, headquartered here in Tampa, Florida. We have presence in Brazil, Germany, huge presence in India, as well as the Philippines and the Dominican Republic. So if you are a global organization, we can meet all your needs.
Okay.
That being said, I'm going to pass it over to Bob Corrigan. As you some all might know, Bob from IFS in his previous days. Bob is an IFS consultant for Prov, and we'll start to walk you through why it's important to upgrade to the cloud. Bob?
Yep. All right. Thanks, John. So again, Bob Corrigan. I had been with IFS for about 25 years. I am still a consultant to IFS, as well as I'm working with Prov on their IFS practice, and particularly their upgrade portions. So I'm going to be going through and discussing, what it takes to plan an upgrade to the IFS Cloud release. So I know some of you have probably, asked yourself, what does IFS Cloud actually mean? It's a word that was chosen to represent the IFS solution that we currently are shipping and selling to customers, and have been for several years now. So when you hear the IFS Cloud, it really means the IFS Cloud product, the actual software that you can license. All customers get an IFS Azure cloud build place, and that's the way everything works. So whenever you upgrade to the IFS Cloud, you'll get the new version of the software. Think of it as applications 11, even though it's much more than that, and I'll get into that. And in addition to that, you get a build place on Azure that you own and control, and that's what everybody gets. In addition to that, there are what are known as cloud services, and those are the actual services to administer and support your cloud, and it is dependent upon how you decide you want to deploy it. You can deploy it using Azure and using IFS Cloud Services, or you can deploy it with what's known as a remote deployment, and I'll go into that a little bit more detail. So the IFS Cloud release, the biggest reason to go to the cloud release is it is the end of upgrades. So with applications 9 and applications 10, IFS has been doing quarterly updates to those releases throughout their active support lifecycle. And with the IFS Cloud release, that will go on indefinitely, and you do not need to go through an upgrade. So that's the major underpinnings of it. The other major underpinning is to make it accessible by whatever device you want to use. So it is a web client. So one of the things, the IFS Internet Explorer is actually no longer supported in the cloud release, and I'll go into that a little bit more detail. And then we do have, the native app support, whether you're running that on an iOS device or an Android device or a Windows device, as well as whatever your browser is that you want to run, Edge, Chrome, Safari. One of the other major changes in the cloud release is moving all of the APIs to RESTful. So, everything comes through that open API layer. IFS, continues to only focus on a limited number of industries. The 6 industries are listed there, from aerospace and defense, energy, utilities and resources, construction, engineering, manufacturing, service industries, and in telecommunications. And the same software can be utilized in all those industries. It's just how we put the accelerators in for the specific industry. And then you can use it either as a standalone best of breed, ERP solution, an enterprise asset management solution, or a service management solution. And the other thing that is built into the cloud release, we've done some of this in apps 10, but when you get into augmented collaboration, advanced planning and scheduling and optimization, machine learning algorithms, intelligent process control and automation, digital twins, the use of various artificial intelligent mechanisms. The Internet of Things obviously has been there through all of apps 10, data management and structuring of data, and then being able to deliver that either as a cloud service, or we are one of the few companies left in the world that allows our solution to be run either on premise or in your own hosting center or in a data center of your choice. And that's because, we want to be able to honor whatever you want to use. And we have some industries where that is a requirement based on Homeland Security, DoD, and some of the other things that we have to deal with. So in the cloud version, we call it a transformative release. The cloud is the product for IFS. So we have been, acquiring companies for many years. And as we acquire those companies, we then take the products and the domain expertise from those companies, and we move it into the cloud version. And those of you that have been around a while can see that, in companies that we've acquired, like 360 Scheduling and Metrics Field Service Management, Astia Service Management, and now we're working on companies like Ultimo and P2, and we continue to expand our product based on that, and to really build up our industry expertise and depth, domain competency. We have embedded innovation, a lot of things that are happening in software that you hear about today, the whole artificial intelligence, conversive, commands where you can just say, find me the latest order from, Bob Corrigan, and the system will go ahead and do the search for you and find that data and retrieve it. Those are the types of things that are, built into the cloud version. And, we really did a lot of work on making sure that, we did a lot with end users as to how to make it very intuitive to use, to lower that training requirement and the impact that it has on, bringing on board new individuals. I just want to come back to that question about deployment because, everybody on here is an IFS customer, currently running. Most of you looking, I think, are running on your, what we call remote. Sometimes you'll hear it referred to as on-premise. So just a point of clarification here is the IFS cloud services, like I said, everyone that has the cloud version has a cloud build place. and that build place is on Azure, and I'll go through that a little bit in more detail. And then it's where do you want to actually use the software, and it's referred to as a use place. And if it's in the IFS Cloud, it's called the IFS Cloud use place. Anywhere else that you deploy it, is what we call a remote deployment. So we prepackage the image, and you have, through your build place, the ability to then download it and deploy it wherever you want. And wherever you want could be on AWS, it could be in your own Azure subscription, it could be in your own, favorite hosting center that's near you, or it can be in your own data center if you still support your own data centers. So I can answer questions at the end, but I just want to dig into the things that have been asked the most as we've gone through these types of discussions for the last couple of years. There has been a small change to how we do release management numbering. So the IFS Cloud is the product name. So I know we use the word IFS Cloud, like I said, to mean many, many things to many, many people, but it is also the product name. We are doing release updates twice a year in the spring and the fall. And those are named cleverly with the last 2 digits of the year. And the first one in the spring is called Release 1, and the one in the fall is called Release 2. So in November, we will have 23R2. So it's released in 2023. It's release number 2, which means it's the fall release. These are very similar as to those of you on 9 and 10 with the quarterly update concept, except instead of being quarterly, they're twice a year. And of course, they have primarily all new functionality. Bug fixes are released on a monthly basis in what's called a service update. And those service updates are provided for 24 months on each release update. So it's probably easier to see when we get to the next slide. So this slide shows, if you're on applications 9, you've been in what was known as, or what is known as restricted support since March of this year. If you're on applications 10, it runs standard support through March of 2025. And I'll talk about what's the difference between, standard support, extended support, and restricted support here in a moment. And then the cloud version, just on apps 10, here at the beginning of the month of September, we released update 21. You can see the quarterly updates will continue. And those quarterly updates for apps 10 have some functional enhancements. Of course, the requirements to meet some reporting needs, and then, of course, bug fixes and patches. The cloud release, the next release is November 30th, and that will be the fall release 23R2, so you can watch for additional information. And as I said, they can continue to support that with monthly patch releases, service updates for up to 24 months. Depending on where you are, I kind of like to bring this chart up. Current shipping release is the IFS Cloud 23R1. If you're on the latest version of apps 10, which right now is update 21, you're about 572 enhancements behind. If you're on any other, it's higher than that. If you're on apps 9, you're about 1,400 behind. And if you're unfortunately, if you're on apps 8, you're like almost 2,000 behind. So one of the advantages of the IFS Cloud, we've changed our development environments since we don't have to really deal with all the different screen form factors. Our compilers automatically take care of that. We use declarative language. By using open APIs that are RESTful, we can really accelerate our development capabilities and add that new functionality very fast. Of course, the question I always get asked is, well, how do I find out what's new? So there is an enhancement spreadsheet that has existed since 2002. And that spreadsheet, I do maintain it and update it every update of apps 10 and every new release of the cloud. So you can get the latest version from IFS community. Hopefully everyone has an IFS community account. They're free. As a customer, you get access to lots of information on the IFS community. So if you don't have an account or can't access it, you can send that email to me. I still have my IFS. It's bob.corrigan@ifs.com. Or your IFS client manager could take care of that for you also. But you can just download it. It's a spreadsheet with a macro. You click on your version. You can also, as you want to maybe share this within your organization to the different departments and super users, they can go in and sort by the main area. So if they're interested in just financials or just in supply chain, or if they're just interested in, inventory management, you can really get down and see what the enhancements are, where they came in. It'll show a description. It's limited to words, so it's a couple of sentences usually, and then a benefit statement as to why the enhancement was put into place. So the IFS Cloud release, some of you have probably seen, what we call the module chart, or the Jeopardy chart with IFS in cloud version. We've just, put the actual suite on the top instead of on the bottom, and we list all the different functional areas that we are shipping software in and putting it out. And there are several new functional areas in the cloud version. So I won't go through them all. I do have pointers to some presentations later that go through in detail all of these areas. The other big change in the cloud release was, how we do integrations. We have built commercially available connectors for Boomi, and Prov is a Boomi partner and does do a lot of this integration work using the Boomi platform. So I just, sometimes it gets overshadowed by the fact that, we have gone to RESTful APIs. We still support IFS Connect, and we'll talk about data migration and some of the things we've done with project gateways. But a lot of the things that you're familiar with in apps 9 and 10 continue in the cloud release, as well as it's been greatly enhanced to provide, the integration that's outbound through a Boomi integrator. The other fairly major change in the cloud release is around security. Obviously, I don't know, your community or what you see, ransomware attacks are rampant around the world right now. We, unfortunately have had customers on some of our older releases get hit by ransomware. So it's really critical if you're still running apps 10, running apps 9, because apps 9, you're on, likely an unsupported version of Oracle and an unsupported operating system. On apps 10, it depends on, exactly what update you're on and how your infrastructure is put together. But that is one of the things that is a big change in cloud, maintaining those certification levels, and doing everything with, encrypting the database at rest and, encrypting all the traffic to and from the clients, doing constant penetration testing, denial of service, protection. So a lot of those things are, integrated and built into cloud. They are for the most part in 10 also, but they're another level up when you go to the cloud version, particularly if you're running in the IFS cloud on the Azure, Microsoft Azure cloud. So, you're here to hear a little bit more about upgrading. So I'm going to talk about, the upgrade process and what, you need to do to get ready to do an upgrade. We do support, what we'll call scripted upgrades, and I'll talk about that here in a moment. But we currently support scripted upgrades from apps 8, 9, and 10. Any databases that are older than that, 757, 2004, you have to go through either a 2-step process to get the upgrade done using scripts, or, we would generally recommend that people re-implement. And that might even be true if you're on apps 8 or 9, and I'll go through, when you would make that decision. So in order to, determine an upgrade, and typically in most businesses, upgrades are, painful. That's why, we want to eliminate upgrades and go to these release updates and, the evergreen style that we have in the IFS cloud. So one of the questions, if you're on 10 or you're on 9, why should we upgrade? How are we going to approach the upgrade? How long is it going to take? Who needs to be involved from our business operations? How much testing do we need to do? How much training do we need to do? And of course, how much will it cost? And of course, the good and bad is that depending on how you answer each of these questions, it creates dependencies on other questions. So how do you go about getting started? And, internal to your own operations, you typically have to go through some kind of a business case to justify why you're going to go through the upgrade. And that business case, I'll give you some hints as to how to develop it, and some tools that are available, as well as some of the services that are available, from Prov and other partners in IFS to help assist you. You have to do a cost justification, typically in all organizations, and you have to do a risk assessment, because the risk assessment, can offset the cost and the business case, depending upon, what the risk is to your business. So, depending on your overall operations, I'll say a well-oiled machine, or a company that has the pulse on, what their business operations needs, have some form of a backlog, where your business operations teams and your groups are coming to you that are responsible for the ERP system or the EAM system, and they're saying, well, we need this. And, somehow, that hopefully has been kept track of. In many cases, you can meet those backlog or those requirements from the business in the current version. And then, of course, can you meet it in the upgraded version, or can you meet it better in the upgraded version? The other thing that I always recommend to customers is to evaluate their end users' satisfaction. I know that sounds scary to a lot of organizations, but in knowing who is unhappy about using the system for supporting their current, work at your business, in most cases, it can be improved using your current version, not even having to upgrade. And, a lot of it can be done just by retraining or better support, which is some of the things that, you might want to look at, some first level support from a company like Prov. And then, of course, can it be improved when you move to the upgraded version? Is the user interface easy, intuitive? Can they run on any device they want to, anywhere they want to? So those are some of the things that, knowing that will help with that justification. And then there's always that question about, infrastructure. So if you're still running your own data center, you have hardware, you have, power requirements, air conditioning requirements, network access requirements, support of the operating system, the middleware servers, the database servers. So you kind of want to look at where you are. And then can improvements be made, by doing the upgrade of the version? So we normally recommend that you document your as-is state. So you kind of review where you are. So if you already have been tracking business requirements and business demands in your organization, and what they're looking to, get the ERP system to do better, look at that information, look at that differences spreadsheet. So, that is a quick, easy way for people that are a little bit familiar with IFS to, get started. And then, of course, there are what's new presentations. So hopefully you're all aware that those what's new presentations are available on, IFS community. There are recordings that voice over them, and I'll talk about how you can get at those and how you can get at the ones from the IFS Academy. And using that information, you want to go ahead and begin to document, what do we want to do when we finish this upgrade? Of course, you can work with IFS and the business partner. Some of these things you have to do, like you have to understand, where you are with your IFS licensing, Oracle licensing, your version of Microsoft on your desktops. Are you on Windows 10 or Windows 11 or earlier? So some of those things you want to understand. Do you want to make changes to your infrastructure? As I said, a lot of people that were on premise had already moved to a hosting center. And then it's whether you want to stay in a hosting center or move to a cloud service, which is, much more hands off. What are the cost of services that you're going to need to do technical training, technical upgrade, any consulting for your, to be state that you might want to go into. And then don't, forget about any integration costs to some of the third-party products that you had. And I'll go through what's current related to cloud version and the most popular ones that were on apps 9 and 10. So the different upgrade approaches that can be taken. So the first one is what's called the as-is approach. Some people will call it just a technical upgrade. And this is where you're really just replicating what you're currently doing in the version you're on, whether it's 9 or 10 or even 8, in the new version. And you may take advantage of some very easy enhancements or some critical changes that will really help you, but you're really not, reevaluating and redoing much new business process changes. So you want to just get the upgrade done, get on the latest version, get on supported hardware, operating systems, database, and then you'll do the major business process changes after go live. That is a fairly common approach that many companies take. Hopefully you have the wherewithal and the commitment to go through the optimization and business process changes after go live. It's better to probably go through what we call a normal upgrade approach, where you evaluate your to-be and you implement it as part of the upgrade. Because if you're going to be doing some training, if you're on apps 9 or you're on apps 10 and still using IEE, the user interface and some of those things, you're gonna have to touch your end users. So that gives you a chance to maybe come back and look at the to-be processes. Also, like I said, if you have that open backlog of here's what the business has been asking you for, that's a great time when you do this upgrade, the last upgrade you'll have to do to get that taken into account. And then, of course, there's what's known as the re-implementation approach. And this is, I'll talk a little bit more about how you decide, do I need to do a re-implementation? The biggest difference between a re-implementation and a scripted upgrade is you have to now migrate your data into the system. Very much like when you did your very first implementation of IFS, when you came from whatever your legacy system was, you migrated data. So you have to make decisions on what you're going to bring in with the data. And that's really the biggest difference on a re-implementation. But of course, there's some other things to be taken into account. Many companies provide services to do an upgrade readiness assessment. And, this is where maybe you don't you normally don't do this. If you're on apps 9, you haven't done one for about 6 or 7 years. If you're on apps 10, you probably haven't done one for almost 5 years since you did your apps 10 upgrade. So, going through an upgrade, you may want to have people that deal with it every day throughout the partner organization like Prov to do it. And normally it can be delivered remotely. We learned a lot during COVID as to, what can be done remotely. And, it's 10 times more than it used to be. And a lot of things can be looked at and analyzed, and then you can make a good decision as to, what do we want to do in our hardware platform? And that's dependent upon, your database version and what interfaces you have, what devices you're utilizing for like data collection or IoT, other products that you're running that augment, IFS or ERP, the solution that you're running, how much customization did you do? How much did you do in configuration and reports? How are those reports written? Are you still using heavily Crystal reports? And they are supported in cloud version, not to say they're not, but you may want to look at that. Extensions you might have been running, because in apps 10 and 9, we had what was known as the global extension. And there are some other extensions, credit card and freight, and I'll go through those also here in a moment. The impact to your business, and then, what do you need for services? You have internal domain competency to do the upgrade yourself or do some of the training yourself, rollouts. So all those things are what we would commonly refer to as an upgrade readiness assessment. And, that helps in your internal justification also for, why upgrade. Sometimes people are a little afraid of, what might come out of an upgrade readiness assessment. The three major things that come out of an upgrade readiness assessment is, management will ask, why are we not on the latest version? Why are we not keeping up to date? Why are we not applying, the updates to apps 10 or apps 9? And a lot of that is, the implementation, it gets to a certain point, and due to cost, staffing changes, personnel turnover, you just lack the follow through on getting those optimizations done. And of course, system enhancements, were never implied, due to cost, time, or risk to the business. Usually time from the business operations people to get involved. And then you'll get a lot of things from your end users. They don't really think IFS supports their business processes that they need to do. Usually this is because A, they don't know about existing functionality, and highly unlikely to know about new functionality that would help them do their job. The other big obstacle we see is around security and profiles. So a lot of users, the system can do what they need it to do, but they don't have the right security profile to perform it. And that is a very, very common problem across the entire customer base. And again, it's, with the apps 10, it's secure first. So you have to enable all the access and the profiles. And, those are things that, it's a task, it's a job. And that's why, companies like Prov they specialize in helping with the setting up security. And then, just lack of training or lack of support. Who do you go to? Hey, I can't seem to figure out how to do this, return of material. I can't seem to, figure out how to do I'm doing a quality inspection. What do I need to do to get that into the system? So not knowing that has them do things outside the system, which of course is bad. The system, as many of the people on this call know, can do it. They just don't know why the end users can't do it. And having these assessments help with that. And then of course, there's always performance and response time. Again, around database maintenance. Many customers don't have Oracle domain competency, or don't have a certified database administrator on staff. So those are, again, things you can get from either IFS or the partner channel, including Prov. And then any changes that happened, and maybe people weren't paying attention. Acquisition, merger activity, divestiture activity is everywhere. And, new sites, more users get added. Maybe you didn't change the underlying processors, memory, amount of disk space, all those types of things. So those are what you're typically going to find out during that readiness assessment. And then, that's when you're going to make that decision of, should we re-implement or do a scripted upgrade? And, some of the reasons people do it is you may have had multiple instances. You may have acquired other companies that ran IFS and continue to run different versions for different companies. You may have different instances because of different parts of the world you're doing business in, like, Brazil or India or China. Those countries, a lot of companies have deployed distinct instances based on different reasons. So maybe now is the time to get those all combined. And you can really only do that through a re-implementation. You can upgrade your primary instance and then migrate in the data for your other instances. Sometimes companies have completely restructured, again, acquisition, merger, divestiture, how your general ledger company and site structures are set up, and that drives a lot of business activities within your company. Do you have more obsolete data than you have current data? So if you have a high turnover of part numbers, bills of materials, customers, vendors, maybe you just got a lot of legacy dead data sitting there. You don't really need it, so you'd like to get rid of it to, optimize your database, get it so searches run faster, all of those types of things that come with that. Again, has your business changed? Some companies that were primarily manufacturers have gone to, assemble to order, where they're basically procuring most of their raw or subcomponents and just building them at the last end item, and installing them and servicing them. So a lot of companies have changed how they do their business. That's a good reason to look at, re-implementing. And then, do you need to retain all of your history? And then, all the history, what does that actually mean? I mean, some of you people on this call have been running IFS for literally 20 years. So you have 20 years of, data. Do you need every one of those sales transactions and every purchase activity that you did? Some people say yes, some people say no. So those are the things you get from that upgrade readiness assessment. A little bit on product life cycle. We throw out these terms like restricted support, extended support. And, if you're on 758 or 9, you are on what's known as restricted support, which means we're no longer doing technical updates and we're no longer updating localizations or maintaining them. You're on your own to do that, or, you're trying to rely on a partner to provide you with that type of support. Apps 10 standard support continues through March of 2025. So, we're about a year and a half out. And then it will move into what's known as extended support. Extended support, for all intents and purposes, is the same as standard support, except it comes at a surcharge fee to your annual maintenance. So that's, another reason to look at that. And, many people, if you're on apps 10 now and you're just planning your upgrade, we're sitting here at the end of 2023, that really gives you, about 15 months, 18 months to complete that entire upgrade. And some companies, I mean, that's, 6 months is a fast cycle for an upgrade and 12 is more reasonable. So, it's time to really make sure you're getting started. And then it'll move into restricted support in March 2028. And as I said, cloud release does not have that. Extended support, as I said, is, you get the same support. You still can, IFS will still do patches, for Sev 1, Sev 2s, and some Sev 3s. We'll continue to monitor, database patches, middleware patches. So if you're on apps 10, you're on WebSphere. If you're on apps 9, you're on WebSphere. Only those on apps 8 may still have JBoss. But those continue to go during the extended support period. But once you're moved into restricted support, pretty much, IFS, we have a hard time supporting, our solution when we're running on databases and operating systems that are no longer supported either. So, if you're getting the restricted support is always a bad place to be. So I just wanted to make sure that that's there. There's a lot of check boxes on this, as to what happens, but, as you can see in the restricted support, there isn't a lot of things. IFS will still bring in cases. They'll still try to help identify, solutions, help you determine whether you have vulnerabilities, but anything that you do beyond that is on a time material basis. Some of them are on fixed price, but most of it's time material basis. And then those are the other things that are there for continuous support, which is what is offered on cloud release. And then standard support and extended support for apps 10 are the ones that are there. So you'll be able to get this later, and you can find it in many places throughout IFS. So the scripted upgrade process, we use that term. It's the most common upgrade process that's run in our customers all over the world. It's where we run these upgrade scripts and we convert all the data from your current database into the new release database. There are several test iterations that have to, be taken into account. Normally there are 3. You can have many more depending upon the complexity of your organization and data structures. But typically there's an internal test iteration, and there's what we call a customer external test iteration. And, that's where you make sure you can, run the upgrade scripts, because you're looking at, are you getting all your data without errors, and how long do they take to run? So you need to know the timing, because you're going to do this upgrade typically over a long weekend. It is a tried and true methodology. It's been done thousands, if not tens of thousands of times around the world. IFS Cloud has been out now for over 2 years. So, it's been run hundreds of times, to get people into the cloud release, and, literally thousands of times on 10 and 9. So one of the things I want to just mention here is I said every customer, when you get to IFS Cloud, has a build place. This is one of those things that does confuse individuals when we use that word IFS Cloud. So I'm going to kind of demystify it a little bit. In IFS Cloud release, you own your environment completely. So if you're on apps 10 or on apps 9, chances are you've heard the term harvest, which is the code repository that IFS keeps everything in, and IFS managed your code line for you. That's true in virtually every case in the world. In the IFS Cloud, you are harvest. You're in control of all of your deployment. IFS can't do anything. You have to give IFS or a partner access to your build place. Otherwise, we can't do anything. Nobody can do anything. So you as a customer will have an administrator on your build place, and that administrator is responsible for giving other people access to your build place. In the build place, you have what's called the Life Cycle Experience Portal, which is where all the developers and testers and technicians go, wherever they come from. You have access to all the documentation, and that is available online at docs.ifs.com. All of the development and operations is in your control, your hands. All the artifact libraries, the master code repositories, support portal, everything is in your control. And every customer on cloud has a build place. And then you deploy it to what's called the use place. So you have your production, you have upgrade and test, you have your config database instances, and you can have others if you need them. And those can either be deployed in the IFS Azure Cloud using IFS Azure Cloud Services, or in someone else's, your own Azure environment, your own AWS environment. It's just what you want for services on that, but it's scheduled and set up that way. So the other thing we get asked fairly often is, what's changed? So the biggest change that's visible to everyone, including all your end users, is that the IFS Enterprise Explorer has been removed. And I know I get asked this question a lot. I got asked it, during App 10 implementations. We've supported the Arena client or the IFS web client in apps 10 throughout the release cycle. So it's been out in the market now for about 7 years. Some companies, just implemented IEE, others implemented a hybrid, others are implementing completely on the web. So therefore, your apps 10 customers, if you have not deployed IE, your end users won't know the difference. Web client's the same. It has a lot of enhancements and things, but it's functionally and a lot around look and feel is the same. If you had a lot of your own development work, some of the Java and .NET access providers have been removed, again, replaced with REST APIs. The middle tier has, been containerized. So WebSphere and JBoss have been removed. They're gone. If you had the global extension to support your operations in different countries, that has been, moved into the core release. And, as of right now, I would say every country that was in GET is supported in a cloud release, with the exception of Brazil. Brazil, I would say, you're by the end of this year, we get 23R2 out in the marketplace. We continue to make progress. We're getting ahead of what Brazil's been doing with their taxation rules. But all of the other places, Italy, India, Japan, some of the other localizations for Eastern Europe, all of those are in the core release. If you were using budget process, that has been replaced with business planning. If you were using consolidated accounts, that is replaced in group consolidation. If you were still using the financial report generator, that is all now in what's called the IFS Business Reporter. If you were using the old time clock, your standalone time clocks, just so you're aware, it's been written completely in the Arena or browser-based application. If you are running Primavera, you're already aware of some of the push from Oracle to move to the Primavera gateway, and IFS supports that in the cloud release. Any of you that were still running the support center, that has been replaced with call center. Anybody running manufacturing visualization, we have expanded that, re-architected and renamed it to manufacturing visual planning. Touch apps are no longer needed in the cloud version. So if you're running some of those touch apps, they've all been replaced with native apps that use the Arena or web client. And one thing I will mention here is if you're using the IEE profiles for security, they don't just automatically move to the Arena and web client. You have to go through them and look at them and I'll say convert them. So that's something that does come up often for particularly IT departments that's supporting the cloud release. And then if you're using constraint-based scheduler, there's been some changes there since we used to use offline scheduling engines and they were written in C#. We've moved that all into cloud release. If you were still using Lotus Notes for some reason for document management, we have removed that. So you'll have to make sure you're looking at other ways of dealing with that. If you were using the Oracle Auto View for document visualization and instant view, that has been removed. There is some new enhancements in 23R2 that will do that native in a cloud version. Warehouse data collection has been, the client has been rewritten. So depending on what devices you're using, if you're using some of those old Windows-based scanners, you may have to look at those. Some of the work with IALs has been changed, but it's been replaced by the RESTful APIs. In the middle tier, the Biz API concept, because we've gone to this containerized middleware, we had to change some of the IFS Connect inbound outbound messages, which some of you may be using for EDI. However, they've all been replaced with new calls that are in what's called inbound outbound operations within the cloud using REST APIs. If you were using OEE, that's been moved into what's now called equipment data collection. And if you were using the analysis models, they were based on OLAP cubes in, the prior versions. And in the cloud release, we've gone to tabular models. And then one other thing that, your end users will, if they are using IEE and they move to Arena, they're going to always say, well, what's missing? The biggest one that I've come across is sticky notes. Sticky notes is not supported in Arena. There are some workarounds and there are some partners that are looking at taking data out of those sticky notes and putting it somewhere in another note field. But they're not supported, that they don't exist as a concept in Arena. That's probably the biggest one I hear of all. No, not very many people are using information cards or quick print. Whether you're using enterprise application search and keyword searching in inside the search engine, start pages, but this just gives you an idea of some of the things that are there. This list, when the first release came out of cloud, was much larger. We continue to add as much as we can, like conditional fields. This will come off here when we come out with 23R2. So some of these things, we are limited keyboard navigation. We continue to add keyboard navigation on each release, but it isn't exactly as robust as it was on apps 10, where you could hit all the different F keys to do, replicate and duplicate and create new and all the things using F keys. But many of the F keys are being brought back. And then, some of the things about extensions, the global extension is in core. If you were using the freight extension, due to some changes, mostly by UPS and FedEx, we've had to rewrite that, and we've added a middle tier into that integration. We recommend PasteJet, but others can be done. We also had to rewrite the credit card extension, and that's around what the clearinghouse is, and so there's a little more configuration to using credit card extension. If you were using the barcode data collection extension and doing work with that, again, that's been built into the RESTful APIs, and there are specific ones around, data collection. These were more if you were using Radley. primarily if you were using Radley. If you were using Vertex or Avalara, that's now that's in the cloud release as core. If you were using the IFS North America Data Migration Toolkit in the cloud version, that has been taken over by IFS partner Astra Canyon. So they upgraded it to support cloud release. They are maintaining it and offering it as a subscription to customers when they're moving to cloud. So that's where the data migration toolkit went. There are data migration tools within the cloud version. They're not exactly the same as they were in the North America data migration toolkit. So you might want to look at that. And if you were using the defense manufacturing extension, I will say right now about 80% of it is in core. The new release that's coming out here at the end of November 23R2, I'll say it's all there. So that's a little bit on the extensions. I said I'd talk about these webcasts. There's links to the webcast. The best thing is if you just go to the stage. Hopefully you've all been to the go-to stage. There's about 150 on-demand webcasts there for cloud and 10, and all the ones I just referenced above there related to upgrades are there. Also, I get asked this quite a bit about the Academy. So the Academy, anybody can get an IFS Academy account for free. You need to know your ID and you need to know who your administrator is in your organization, but they can add accounts for people to go into IFS Academy. And then there is about 100, well, there's 213 self-paced e-learning accounts, of which I think every one is free. I don't know if absolutely every one of the 213 is free. And then you can look at the different ones like, on cloud getting started, or, if you want to get into specifics, what's new in visual planning on 23R1, how about supply chain shipment management, sales order. If you take one like here, I did one on customer return authorizations, and then, there's course material, a knowledge check to make sure I knew what I was doing. And then it'll go into customer order details. It'll go into flexible line scheduling. So it kind of gives you a roadmap for your people to follow in the Academy. And now it's open for questions. So anybody that has any questions, hopefully you were sending them in on the chat. So if you see any, John, or any that were in there.
I have a question.
Yep.
Pertaining to the extended support. We're on apps 10. So it goes into extended support in March 2025.
Yep.
What's the 25%, 50%, 100% incremental increase? Is that on our annual service?
Annual maintenance. Yep. Your annual IFS maintenance. So you're probably paying us maintenance on Oracle and things like that, but it would be on your annual IFS maintenance.
And when does that?
Yep. Go ahead, Bruce.
When does that kick in?
It would kick in on the renewal that is passing through that March date. So, some people most people we only renew yearly. So depending on when your annual renewal is, a lot of them have them in that beginning of the year. Others have them at the end of the year, in December, but a lot of them are in January, February, March. So it'd be when the renewal notice comes out to you, it would have the 25% applied.
So far as happens,
your account manager should give you that details.
So far as happens in September.
It would be September of 2020. Yep.
We're going to see a 25% increase, or what's the
prorated to the term? Yes.
Okay.
Did you guys happen to talk about the deferment program? Sorry, I missed some of the chat. John, did you have a chance to talk about that?
No, we have not, because we haven't wrapped up the call yet.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect.
But we're getting close.
Any other questions?
Are you going to provide this recording and PowerPoint to the attendees on this call?
Yes.
Okay, great. Thanks.
Yeah, so one of the things I will do after this call, when we get the recording, as you might have saw in the invitation, that we are also going to schedule a 2 to 3 hour meeting with you and your team, with our consultants here, to talk about what your processes are right now. What are you guys doing? How are you using the IFS applications? What version you're on? Things such as that. And we will be writing a one-pager based on, what changes you guys can make, what kind of process changes you can make, and what experiences you guys can make by going to the cloud. So that's a free service that we're going to provide to anybody that registered for this webinar and attended this webinar. The other promotion that we are running from now to the end of the year here at Prov, we are a channel sales partner, but we're also an implementation partner as well. So we will work with your IFS account manager. And if you guys purchase the upgrade before the end of the year, Prov will then do the implementation for free until phase 1 of the project. So we will not start the billing you on the implementation until after we get through phase 1 of the implementation project. We will also do a one-to-one cost. So the cost of your upgrade one-to-one to the implementation. So this is something we're running in the Q4 timeframe until the end of the year. So if you guys are interested, we can also continue to speak of that. But please be on the lookout from an email from me with this information, with the recording of the webcast, as well as times for us to discuss, set up that meeting for the one-on-one consulting.